Welcome to Missed Opportunities for Good, the podcast where we open up the space to have conversations about trends and campaigns and cultural moments at the intersection of marketing, advertising, and impact.
Hi, I'm Alana Ficalora.
Hey, I'm Steph Belsky.
We're social impact strategists, colleagues, and friends who are on a mission to revolutionize the industry we love.
Today, there's a lot of virtue signaling, greenwashing, cause washing, or companies saying nothing out of fear of getting it wrong.
Whether it's a moment or a movement, it still has to be real. It has to be authentic and aligned with the brand, not just performative. It's about the action being taken that goes along with the messaging.
We're here to highlight who's doing it well, what could be better, and how companies can stop leaving money and the potential for real social change on the table.
Today, we're getting nostalgic for simpler times with Pinterest, getting real with Aerie, and covering the many ways cancer prevention is being addressed from big pharma to nonprofits.
Which also taps into the nostalgia trend, right? As well.
It does.
It does.
Before we get into it, let's do a quick review of our criteria.
The first thing we always look at is alignment.
Next is partnerships,
call to action and transparency,
engagement,
and lastly, optimization and amplification.
Steph, would you like to kick us off with Pinterest?
I am so excited to talk about this campaign, Alana. I don't think I'm outing us when I tell our listeners that both you and I are children of the 80s. I know we do look fabulous for being in our 40s. But more importantly, we got to experience life before the internet existed, which honestly today feels like a really weird and amazing superpower. And so for this and many other reasons, Pinterest's latest campaign, How Did They Do It?, features footage from the before times, we will call them, as well as real employees' home movies and photos for this campaign. So instead of stage stock footage, they took their own staff's home movies and footage from when they were growing up and made them not just influencers, right? But the emotional anchor of the campaign's core message of how did they know who they were without the rest of the world telling them, which just chills. So how did they do it? Plays really hard into the nostalgic factor that we will be talking about throughout this episode and brings us, well, at least those of us that remember, back to a time before social media and comparison culture, barf, where kids would be told to just go outside and play. Were you ever told that, Alana? Like, just go play.
Weirdly, I don't totally remember, but we also had a backyard, so we probably just did. But I remember playing outside with neighbors and the girl around the corner. We used to run back and forth to each other's houses, or our parents would like pass us over the fence. And
Exactly.
like I knew my neighbors and we played with the kids in the neighborhood and all of that stuff. Yes.
Right. And growing up in the woods, I would just run around.
Just ran to the woods.
And we would only come home when we heard our names being called, right? So many people just crave this now. And then the tagline of this campaign, the best thing you can find online is a reason to go offline.
I think
and to be fair, this campaign really taps into what Pinterest Gen Z's users care about right now. Okay, according to the tech platform, searches for dumb phone on Pinterest are up 150%, and searches for quote unquote analog aesthetic are up 260% year over year.
Fascinating.
And I just I don't know, I think about Bobby and using the Camp Snap cameras in their campaigns, right? Shout out Bobby. Listen to our 50th episode with Kim Chappell for more on that, but I digress. Pinterest has 619 million monthly users globally, and 1.5 billion pins are saved every week. That is just unfathomable. And so if these are the search results specifically for Gen Z,
Mm.
like that just feels like they're really trying to say something. And then let's take a look at how they got here, right? What's the behind the scenes proof that led to this campaign? So in January of 2024, CEO Bill Reddy wrote an op-ed piece about how social tech, specifically, big tech, needs
Mm.
to reject the big tobacco model and address social media harms to teens. And today, or more specifically, even just this last month, Reddy wrote another op-ed for Time magazine calling for governments to follow Australia's lead of banning social media for kids under 16 years of age. And Pinterest is leading this charge by removing any and all social features for teen accounts and making every account for a child under the age of 16 private, meaning there is no discoverability, there is no messaging unless somebody accepts the interaction, right?
I haven't
No
been on Pinterest
likes.
in so long, I didn't know that you could do any of these things on Pinterest.
Exactly. I know. Oh, I was actually
I'm like,
really
why would you need
impressed.
to ban teens? Oh, goodness gracious.
I
Get
know.
with it,
I know.
Alana.
It's
Carry
been a
on.
minute. And they have all these cool new AI capabilities that they
Of course
have
they do.
now. And you'd think that these changes would make Pinterest lose the next generation of users. But in light of all the lawsuits against social media platforms like YouTube and Meta, over 50% of the Pinterest audience of Gen Z's users actually really appreciate the tech giant prioritizing their safety, their mental health, and their well being. It feels like the platform is really trying to earn their trust, not pushing them away. So, how does all this come together? Well, Pinterest is actually putting their money where their mouth is, I'm happy to say. They are standing behind their users through the Pinterest Impact Fund. The platform has actually raised over $30 million for their impact partners. They have over 60 impact partners who are supporting youth mental wellness programming and resources. Pinterest has launched pivotal initiatives like the Youth Mental Health Corps and the Hidden Healing Fund with partners from both the public and private sectors. And they also signed on to UNICEF-led's Global Coalition for Youth Mental Health. Pinterest also fully calls out the spreading of any misinformation, specifically also climate misinformation, cyberbullying, not allowing their accounts that belong to violent actors, hate groups, or malicious misinformation actors, and more. They do all of this heavy lifting through their community guidelines. But even in reading their community guidelines, because of course, we're the research nerds that do this, but in reading their community guidelines, how they wrote it feels very teen appropriate. You're not getting some jargony T&Cs that nobody can understand and that's lawyer speak, right? They're really speaking to their users, which was really refreshing. And they even have a no body shaming rules. And also, I was really pleased to see, especially in the age of AI and the fact that they are bringing AI into their platform, they have no fake filters on beauty because, quote unquote, you look great just as you are. And so all of this quiet behind the scenes advocacy really feels like this how did they do it campaign feels earned and appropriate. And because Interest has been doing this work for years, this doesn't feel performative, right? It feels like it belongs in their scheme of their campaigns and their programming. And it also felt like Pinterest is positioning itself as the hinge of social media, right? We've talked about on the podcast before, Hinge gets marketed as the dating app designed to be deleted. And I am a proud Hinge couple. So, focusing on fostering meaningful long term relationships rather than endless swiping. They even limit accounts to 8 likes per day to combat the low effort swiping and mental health struggles that so
Wait,
many.
Hinge does or Pinterest does?
Yeah, sorry, Hinge does. All that to say, it would be a missed opportunity for Hinge if they weren't at Coachella this year. But guess who was? Pinterest. And so, again, all of this comes together through a real world activation, a phone free Coachella.
What a concept.
Right. And
If
how did
were you
Pinterest?
there if you didn't have your phone on?
Right. Right. With all of the beautiful sunsets and all of the amazing activations that they usually do at this festival that just screams to be on Instagram and on, maybe even your Pinterest board or whatever it may be. It was a bold move for Pinterest to say, we're going phone free. But I think it really landed well, and we're going to get into the activation a little bit. So,
Tell us
uh,
about it.
yeah. So they took this analog approach that Gen Z is clearly starving for and craving and created a physical phone free experience. When guests arrived, they physically locked their phones in these yonder pouches.
Which is
Now,
normal for kids now in school because most schools or a lot
right,
of school districts have
this
now
is,
implemented that, yeah.
Leo's still in daycare, or just got into daycare. But yes, these yonder pouches are these secure neoprene magnetic locking fabric bags designed to create this phone free experience at schools, like you said, Alana, concerts and events. And it's supposed to promote increased focus, reduce cyberbullying, all that other good stuff. And so not only did Pinterest team up with the Yonder pouch, but they also teamed up with Dream Beauty collaborator, who we have talked ad nauseum on this podcast, and I'm proud to say, Elf. Yeah, a brand that we absolutely love on the pod. And obviously, game recognizes game, y'all. So once inside the activation, guests embellished keychains. They got their makeup done according to Pinterest trends because, of course, you have to bring in the brand experience. And you could even send a postcard home of your joy guide, quote unquote. And naturally, the whole thing was surrounded by brilliant, beautiful colors throughout the activation. And the piece de resistance was a rainbow lenticular photo. Okay. Which I had to look up. These are basically like an accordion type of photo, these analog activities that have been inspired by online pinning, right? Or anything
Mhm.
you see online, your conversations with friends and IRL community brings new levels of joy and connection to the festival going experience. And then to further amplify all of this messaging, Pinterest actually partnered with digital first content creator and model Quenlin Blackwell, who went phone free for the entirety of the festival. Okay. And she said, the partnering with Pinterest to go phone free at Coachella is me choosing to disconnect so that I can reconnect, which is a lovely sentiment. More of us could follow. But partnering with a chronically online creator to log off is really Pinterest's way of giving their younger users not just control of their own narrative and safety, but also a sense of agency over their own dopamine addictions and screen consumptions, right? And to me, this feels up there with a Dove Real Beauty and really a great example of a brand living, breathing its values from and the values of all of its stakeholders, right? From the CEO who says, I'm a dad and I'm the CEO of this company, and I believe that our kids need to be safe, to all of the activations that we're seeing. And yeah, And I guess the biggest missed opportunity for good here feels like, they've built these impact partners up and they were missing, right? So Quenlin Blackwell, for example, could have been paired directly with one of their impact partners so that her entire sponsorship narrative could have been, I'm going offline for Coachella, and in exchange, Pinterest is fully funding a youth mental health initiative in my name through the Global Coalition for Youth Mental Health or through their Hidden Healing Fund. So that's one avenue that they could have taken, right, to incorporate all the pieces of the puzzle. But sometimes working with talent can be a mixed bag. And so for a less risk averse opportunity, we could have gone back to some of those postcards that got sent home as part of the quote unquote joy guide in the physical activation. And it could have featured a QR code linking to the Hidden Healing Fund or to even their impact page, their impact partners page, which features a handful of these partners like Black Men Hike and other different nonprofits with some copy that said, welcome back to reality. Keep the good vibes going by clicking here. And we all know that after attending any festival, especially one that is so overstimulating and joyful and fun, getting back to work that next week is going to obviously bring on a little post festival blues, right? So to get this care package in the mail that you've sent yourself after attending this awesome festival feels like it could really drive some of that home. Catching the user when they could actually use a little bit more support. It's trackable, it's risk averse, and it closes the loop on this whole well-being mission.
Yeah.
What
Yeah. So much stuff. You went deep. Yeah, I think
I
it's
was
really
channeling you,
interesting.
Alana. I was channeling my inner sleuth.
Yeah, it's funny. I did the Social Impact Leaders Incubator with Kathy Gu, who is currently the Impact Fund Senior Lead at Pinterest. So I constantly see her updates on LinkedIn and things like that of all the amazing work Pinterest
Yeah.
is doing. And so I feel like I've been bought in on their work since I met her 4 years ago or whatever it was. And it's truly been incredible to watch how much their social impact program has grown, and especially to see it from her side, which is literally speaking from the social impact department and her role and what they're doing. And so to have them now bring some of these elements a little full circle, or the idea behind this mental health piece, into one of their
Yeah.
campaigns, I think is really powerful. This whole idea of going analog and getting offline, I think it could be interesting. Sure. I mean, it's like anything, right? This gets a lot of hype because it's an activation, it's an in person, it's an experience.
Right.
And then what? So now these people have had this amazing experience. How can you continue to encourage people to, where else will they continue to have people go online to find ways to go offline? Can the postcard suggest a hiking trail, or once a month have a 12 hours phone free day where you leave your phone at home for the day, or things like that, to continue that mental wellness, or whatever other, maybe some other mental wellness tricks or things like that that they've come up with along the way. If they slid a little something something in there, I think could be a nice little ad. And I love the idea of looping back to one of the organizations that they actually already support and having that, or even if they had, representatives from some of these organizations maybe there and talking about what they do, because you have that representation from these brands. Why not incorporate all of the things? And I'm curious to see with Quinlan, is that how you say her name? How she talks about it after the fact, and if there's almost like an op-ed or something that comes out after the fact, as much as the PR before that she's going to be going phone free. But on the back end, it would be great to see an op-ed from her. Maybe she's just doing it on her channels, and I obviously don't know who she is, so clearly I didn't follow her. But to follow up on that and let her followers know what that felt like, and hypothetically, hopefully she had such an incredible IRL experience, and I imagine was even more hyper conscious of everyone else being on their phones because she wasn't. But were her friends on their phones? What were the other people in her environment? How did that affect her experience? I kind of want to know how she felt about the whole thing. I think that would be really interesting as well, whether it was literally part of the Pitches campaign or just something she did on her own. I'm very curious how that piece of it pans out.
Yeah. I was also trying to think about, like, when was the last time I went to a concert or something and wasn't on my phone? Because I'm usually in the nosebleed section, so honestly, your phone gives you a better
It's like a magnifying
experience.
glass.
Yeah. I remember you used to bring binoculars to concerts.
Yeah, so it's basically the same thing.
Right, right, but I really loved the idea that this person who has built her entire following online was really open to the idea and not doing it as a publicity stunt,
Yeah.
but really doing it so that she could fully be present and in the moment, and I totally agree with you, Alana. I really hope that she does do some kind of follow-up with her audience to let them know how it went, and she didn't spontaneously combust because she didn't have her phone on her.
Spoiler alert, I'm now on her Instagram
Oh,
account.
here we go, here we go.
And she did bring her digital cameras with her. So she was not totally device free. So to some extent, you still have a camera and you're still capturing it, which as my husband would say is still part of the problem.
Yeah.
Because to truly be in the moment, you also can't have said camera. But she does have a follow-up post saying that she survived and honestly thrived. And thanks Pinterest for pushing her to be present. And
Yeah.
that living in the moment is better than live streaming it. Live streaming is a whole other level than just bringing your digital camera. So
Yeah.
maybe contextually that's also different. So she did do a little bit of a debrief, but I kind of want her to not even have a digital camera, but maybe that's against her being to not have a digital camera. I don't know.
Well,
You
then
know,
she
or I'm
would
sure like
spontaneously combust, Alana, if she did not have
because then you
any
couldn't prove you
device.
weren't there. I think the magic truly becomes when you go do the thing and there's no proof that you were there. That I think would be the full extent of taking that truly seriously,
Yeah.
right? Because not everything we did as kids was captured on the camcorder or on a film
None of it.
camera because you only had so much film and
Yeah.
you had to be you had to be careful because it was expensive to develop film. You couldn't just willy-nilly take photos of everything. So I think and I'm not saying we have to go fully back to that world, but if you're going to say this in the campaign and that's really what you're pushing forward, I think then let's just go all the way. Okay, moving on to the next because I feel like we spent a lot of time there. Different sort of a throwback.
Yeah.
We're going Pamela Anderson here. What? With Aerie? What? How is that their target market? I have so many questions. Okay, so if for somehow you're not familiar with Aerie, it's American Eagle's lingerie brand, and they launched back in 2006, so they've been around for a hot minute. And they were originally like every other lingerie brand that was hawking their bras and undies and loungewear to 15 to 25-year-olds. The competition, I think, for Victoria's Secret's pink line and things like that. There was really no discernible difference until 2014 when they went bold and pledged to stop, it shouldn't be bold, by the way, but it was at the time, pledged to stop retouching models, and they launched the Aerie Real campaign. So we're getting real.
I mean, good for
And
them for
it was
being
huge. It was huge,
spearheading
right?
that in 2014. Yeah.
It was a really big deal. It was the different take on Dove's Real Beauty, which this came, I believe, afterwards, but still, it was revolutionary to some extent at the time. And their whole manifesto at the time was the real you is sexy. They showed models with cellulite, birthmarks, body hair, every other natural feature that the lingerie industry, especially, had been erasing for eternity. And the market loved this. By 2018, Aerie had achieved 16 consecutive quarters of double-digit comparative sales growth and proved to everyone that body positivity does sell. So it turns out people like real people. What a concept. They wanted to see something attainable. So since then, Aerie has expanded their definition of real and moved past solely just not retouching photos. They've recruited different types of role models, aside from the traditional models, highlighting real people and other women that people look up to. Aly Raisman, Olympic gymnast and sexual abuse survivor. Iskra Lawrence, body positivity advocate, Brenna Huckabee, Paralympic snowboarder, and showing women with visible disabilities, ostomy bags, insulin pumps, and wheelchairs. So they have really been a leader in this space of representation, especially for the lingerie industry, but even in general, because in fashion, you also don't see much of this across the board. And so they would choose these role models not just for conventional beauty, but their story and their impact, and really showed that consumers, especially Gen Z, yet again, because this is where everyone is focusing all their energy, and their younger millennials, that they do respond more strongly to this authenticity than just aspirational images that you and I grew up with. So now Aerie's taken this even further, and the new take on Aerie Real is by pushing against AI generated content, since that is the topic of the day every day. And their spokesperson is Pamela Anderson, who I still associate with Baywatch because that's the version of her that I grew up with. So when I initially saw this, blew my mind because to me, she always represented the exact opposite of real.
Correct.
And I was very confused until somebody pointed out to me when I was talking about this campaign, because I really couldn't wrap my head around it. And she was like, yeah, she goes no makeup now and she's reinvented herself and all these things. And that's probably why they picked her. And I was like, yeah, but why did they pick her? Because that's not this generation. So I don't understand. So anyhow, so what this actual key spot of this campaign is a 60-second spot, which obviously has cut downs as well, that opens on Pamela Anderson prompting an AI bot to populate models on the screen. She's struggling to redefine her vision. She's asking for the models to look different ways, more natural, more happy, less lifeless, and wants to make them feel real. And then that eventually goes away and they reveal her in her cozy, airy outfit, full of energy and spunk. Sure. And then at the end, she says to camera, "You can't prompt this." I mean, really? It's just like
prompt this.
It's like a bad combination of all the Amazon spots talking to Echo, or like the Siri talking spots, or like any of those. Like it's just a why? Just why? We just don't need any of these things. Anyhow, just not my vibe. Sorry, anyone who worked on this campaign. I knew someone used to work at American Eagle, but anyhow. So this pledge now to not use AI on their ads actually started in October. And there was a different video that announced this pledge to not have AI generated bodies or people. And so here, Aerie wasn't quite the leader. There's been a lot of conversation on this. Dove, again, the leader and everything, had already said this previously, that they would never use AI generated imagery and wanted to represent real bodies. I personally think the video that they put together about this in October is more compelling because it highlights their overarching campaign over the years and their consistency on this Aerie Real piece. And then you get to this with Pamela Anderson and you're like, but why? Aerie's reason for hiring her, the CMO, Stacey McCormick, said that the former Playboy model famously reclaimed her narrative following decades of exploitation and has embraced her natural beauty by opting to go makeup-free for public outings. It doesn't get more real than Pamela. She embodies real and what it means to reclaim yourself. We know the influence she has, and our audience really responds to her, and we know that she transcends age within audiences.
No, she doesn't.
I would love for anyone to ask anyone from Gen Z.
If you are just 20 years old, please tell us who Pamela Anderson is.
And also, if you showed a picture of her now, I wouldn't have recognized her.
Yeah.
If I hadn't read the byline of the campaign before seeing the video, I honestly would not have recognized her. So I think that's an interesting take. Also, how does reclaiming your narrative equal real anti-AI? To me, there's not a direct correlation here. So I'm really not tracking how you could, at one point, seemingly have all this plastic surgery and work done. And then just because you don't wear makeup, you're suddenly the spokesperson,
right?
The poster child for being real. As we were saying, 18 to 25-year-old girls, there's no way they know who she is or identify. I just don't understand. They'd probably look at this and they're like, who's that old lady? I don't know. Not even that she's that old, but truthfully, when you're 18 to 25, you think anyone over 40 is old. So
yeah.
whatever. And I realized that their target audience has been, they've increased it gradually up to 35. And now apparently they're trying to reach up to 45. So maybe it's just a grab for older customers. But again, I'm in that between 35 to 45 age range and you ain't grabbing me. So I'm not really sure who you're targeting with this. And obviously, because we're talking about AI, I had to have a conversation with my dear friend Claude and see if Claude thought this was a good idea. Because what does Claude have to say? Well, let's just say Claude agrees with me. Claude says it's a smart PR move for a specific campaign about AI, but it's a somewhat borrowed story. Thanks, Claude. Anderson may be reclaiming herself, but that narrative didn't happen inside Aerie, it happened outside. And the brand's just attaching itself to something that she already did independently. And they're even calling out that the most powerful Aerie spokespeople have been those whose values grew with the brand, not ones that the brand has commandeered as their own. So that's kind of funny. And Claude also pointed out that once you've hired her as the face of authenticity, that you're undermining the authenticity that you're trying to create, right? This is no longer a compelling story. So it's a little paradoxical. Your credibility kind of gets a little wishy-washy, not great. And they also think that they're hijacking her narrative and the publicity that she's getting from her other projects with The Last Showgirl and everything else that she's been doing and showing it without makeup. It's not as symbiotic as I think they were hoping it would be. My personal opinion, a better spokesperson, and I'm sure Steph has some great insights on who she would like to see as the face of this campaign. But I think if you're going to talk real and not AI, and you've been talking about body positivity for all these years and showing real humans, you go with real customers. You literally do an open casting call for real customers who use real products and show what real people look like, unfiltered, unedited, all of that, to truly make the statement of anti-AI imagery, because that's something that AI definitely can't replace, right? And I think if you do it that way, and again, Claude agreed with me here too, it's great. Sometimes it's like you talk to yourself, it's kind of weird. But you could literally do that as a way to engage your customer base as well and have it become, something where people are submitting through your social channels to be a part of this campaign, and you select through that, even versus traditional casting for real people, right? Which is still sometimes a little skewed. And people could be submitting on their own, and you could make it a whole contest and all these other things. And then you're really having true engagement on TikTok, on Instagram, whatever channels it is that their audience is spending the most time on. And then you feature those people. And then it's not so performative. It doesn't feel dodgy. It doesn't feel like you're bringing in somebody who doesn't really fit. And you can actually highlight your customers. So that's my quick summary. But did you have anything you wanted to jump in with before we power through some more of the criteria that we talked about?
Yeah, I don't know, Alana. I think you're pretty much nailing it. I mean, the campaign is having an identity crisis, right? If Aerie's bread and butter is Gen Z and younger millennials who, as we know, who have no idea who Pamela Anderson is, but they also care deeply about digital literacy and AI ethics, right?
Yeah.
And so why are we using this legacy Playboy model? I understand. And I do have to say, I appreciate that she is that she is actively reclaiming her narrative.
Yes. And that's a whole other campaign, right? I think that is so important. Exactly. And there's a brand that is the voice for, right?
Like, it is
Know Your Worth, Revlon.
Yes.
Great. L'Oreal, right? L'Oreal. Yeah. L'Oreal, Know Your Worth.
L'Oreal. How ironic if she would do a makeup commercial without wearing any makeup. Fabulous. Yes. I love it. Great.
Yeah. That would be like a statement.
Right. But alienating your 20-year-old who built the Ariel movement just to chase older wallets feels totally like a money grab.
And it feels like you're going to lose your customer.
Completely. Also, let's just talk about for a second. This whole thing was shot on a set. I'm sorry, you couldn't get the permit to shoot it outdoors to have a real house. She was on a set. if you want to bring in the real factor, put her out in the woods. Put her in her own garden. Put her in her natural environment. Don't put her on a fucking set.
It's amazing.
I
Did I not
have
even
many
catch that?
thoughts on this.
That's really funny. I totally missed that part. Ultimately, I appreciate their statement they are making when it comes to the alignment, right? Like they are sticking to their Aerie Real campaign. They are implementing a policy that is very important. They are talking about that they are using AI internally for other purposes, but they're specifically implementing guidelines that prohibit the use of AI generated people or bodies. That's obviously really important because that's big controversy right now across the board, right? They use AI and analytics and things on that side, fine. And they also are making it very clear that these standards apply not just to their internal teams, but to any of the partners they work with, and which they do have a lot of their team in house. But even with creators, they require their creators to not use AI to generate content in any sort of way in that sense, which as you know, as we know with the tech platforms and they're embracing more AI, like that could be something that could easily slip in. So being very clear about that from the beginning, I think is also really important as we're talking about the social media world as well, right? And it's interesting that another piece of their strategy in this space, which kind of aligns with what we were talking about with Pinterest, is that they're intentionally continuing to invest in both physical retail and in-person experiences. So again, it's going back to this idea of humanity, in person, bringing people together, community, and they acknowledge that stores still account for half of their business. That's a big deal these days, right? When so many purchases are happening online and they're continuing to open in real life stores. So they still have that touch point with their audiences. So not just having the stores, but they're continuing to build more in real life events to deepen community connection, which I think is a nice little additive. I'd love to see what those events look like, but it's great to know they're doing something. It's also funny on the partnership side with Pamela. There's a Marie Claire interview talking with Pamela about the campaign. And it's interesting that I think the play with her almost is like getting exposure to another audience because she even acknowledged that she was interested in being a part of this campaign because it was a way to talk to a younger audience, specifically saying their audience. And maybe that was a slip of words, but I think she's acknowledging too that she's aware that she's not their target customer, clearly, and maybe not identifiable totally to their target customer. And I think it's important that she has an important message to share, especially as we're raising young girls and things like that. But maybe this was not the play to do it on with the AI piece of it. She's also kind of aware that she's not the organic values line partner that you might think they would originally go for. And she seems aware of being a vehicle for a message, which I thought was kind of fascinating. Then the other piece of it that I think, Steph, you would particularly be interested in is they are launching a creators program about this called Aerie Reel Makers, which is kind of like about this combating the AI piece of it. And so it'll be interesting to see what sort of content comes out of that, because again, it has these specific non-AI guidelines. And so they're asking for new people to apply for this program. It'll be interesting to see what creators in the future partner with them and if that skews in age at all, if they try to reach a larger demographic and age range with those folks, or if that kind of still stays within their younger Gen Z core audience.
Yeah. I mean, look, I was fully on board when you said that they should have casted this with real humans, with real customers, right?
How do you have a campaign called Real and not use real people? I get she's a real person, but like you have to go the non-celebrity, non-creator, non-influencer, non-actor, model, not like any performing type of a person.
Right. So it will be very interesting to see who these Aerie Reel makers are. And I think the other thing, and maybe we'll get into this more, but like the call to action. Like,
there's no call to action.
There was none. You can't prompt this? No. That does not a call to action make, Pamela. And they have the Aerie Reel Foundation now, right?
Yep.
That's also a thing that exists. And I know I sound like the broken record here, but instead of ending that commercial with a cheeky tagline that makes no sense given anything, Why didn't we have the CTA drive audiences to the foundation to support digital literacy for young girls? If Aerie really claims that this is the foundation of who they are and what they want to stand for,
Yeah.
they've built the impact vehicle and they completely
Yeah.
forgot to put it in the campaign.
Yeah. And to that point, gosh, which episode was it that we were talking about the importance of brands talking about not so much the literal anti-AI imagery piece of it, but the digital literacy, to your point, to understand what is real and what is not.
Yes.
And if you built out, like as part of the foundation or taking a page out of Dove's playbook and offering resources, how do you identify between real and not real? Right.
Yeah.
And making a very clear playbook and understanding that can be widely shared and resources available to teach young kids as they are growing up and entering this digital landscape that they were born into, how to differentiate. It seems so simple.
Just go.
And maybe there's something in the work, right? I was talking to one of my daughter's friends' moms the other day, and she'll have conversations with her 6-year-old about, truth or opinion, something like that. And she plays a game with her and she'll be like, oh, is this true or is this an opinion? And I think there's a game you could play or create with not just identifying AI slop, but literally, is this fabricated or is this real?
Yeah.
And I feel like Aerie could make something really fun with that to teach the audience how to engage in this space.
Maybe that's the in-store activation that we don't know about.
Perchance. And also in a digital world, wouldn't it be great if we could access what this could look like online? And the other thing that I thought was really funny that I stumbled across in thinking about the transparency of this and what else is happening in the world and where this sits in the trends of the AI conversations.
Yeah.
Adweek literally had an article about AI becoming its own form of virtue signaling, or anti-AI, I should say, is becoming its own source of virtue signaling. So now in all of our cause washing and greenwashing and all of that, now we're going to need an anti-AI washing segment.
Yes.
Because now brands literally just trying to say that that as a platform is no longer a message, which is fascinating because even Equinox, my gym, was playing into that. So it's fascinating that brands are taking a side, and also how that doesn't mean anything anymore. We've already gotten to the point that the ship has left. Yes, we know, moving on, talk about something real, do something about it. And so I think, to your point, had they had a call to action, had they actually created something that people could take away from this or learn from, then maybe that's actually contributing. Otherwise,
make a real impact.
You're not really doing anything.
Yeah.
You're just talking to Siri, and that's not even what this is for. So yeah, we're going to keep watching this, but not impressed so far. Not that we are surprised with what happened with American Eagle and Sydney Sweeney. Moving on. So cancer prevention, important because we just had a cancer prevention month, a specific type of cancer, but I'm forgetting which one. Anyhow, it's always some sort of a cancer prevention month, so feels right. Needless to say, in the past, we've tried covering campaigns on breast cancer awareness month or things like that and not found many people talking about it. So it was kind of interesting that we stumbled upon multiple cancer campaigns at the same time. Catch all and nostalgic messaging all around.
Oh my
because
God,
that's clearly hot right now. I feel like everybody knows the phone number 867-5309, especially if you're trying to prevent cancer.
867-5309. 867-5309.
See,
Jenny.
everyone knows. We're not going to be able to turn her off now.
I'm so old.
Let's be honest. Anyone who is being targeted for this knows this song. So here is a great use of nostalgia. The nonprofit Cancer Support Community and Gilda's Club has a new number to call, CSC 867-5309. The hotline is going to be used that when someone's impacted by cancer, the Cancer Support Community and Gilda's Clubs are the first place they can turn. I feel like these days everyone knows somebody that's affected by cancer, and they're here to show you don't need to go through it alone. There is support out there, and you already know the number. So how great is that? I thought this was such a clever use of the call. Makes it easily accessible.
It is. And Tommy Two Tones singer Tommy Heath actually said that he has some family members who are struggling with cancer, and he himself is dealing with minor skin cancer. So, there is a real
There's real
alignment
touch
here.
points. Yeah, there's touch points all around.
Yeah. And like you said, Alana, everybody knows somebody who has cancer, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And yeah, no notes aside from it feels a little random, but like also
But also
lovely.
here for it.
And
Also, to be
now,
fair, I didn't
right
know about
now,
cancer support community before. And so if anyone else doesn't know, they uplift and strengthen people impacted by cancer by providing support, fostering compassionate communities, and breaking down barriers to care. A great resource to know when if you have someone in your orbit affected by cancer. The only bummer for me on this one was that didn't seem like they have a big following online, so there's not a ton of engagement. So hopefully they got the word out there in other ways and we're able to do some other partnerships. I just hope that no one's just randomly calling this phone number. So I hope that there's something happening along the way to actually get the word out and this isn't just falling flat and out there just to win an award or something, which I don't even know that it would do that, but you just want it to work. So
yeah,
I love this concept, but it just needs eyeballs.
it needs eyeballs. And now, happily, we all have that earworm stuck in our heads. The one off, the one hit wonder of Jenny's number is now going to a good cause. So,
And since you
yay.
love singing so much, why don't you sing us into our next cancer spot?
Oh my God. I have so many thoughts on this, but
Give us our intro song.
oh, everywhere you look, everywhere there's a heart, there's a heart. You need to hold on to. Na, na, na. Okay, now the COVID is again.
Take it back to TGIF. Carry on.
Yeah, yeah, take me back there. The second talk, which is the new Cologuard campaign for Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month, leads us in with a video that reunites Uncle Jesse, John Stamos, and Stephanie Tanner, Jodie Sweetin, for one of their famous talks. And amid sitcom canned laughter and cue the sappy music, the premise is that Jodie Sweetin has just turned 45. Side note, she's 44, but is embarrassed to talk about starting colon cancer screenings. Stamos, though, just so happens to have a Cologuard box billed as the special guest star with him. And the Cologuard test, he advises to Sweetin, is simple, non invasive, no prep, plus no live studio audience. Oh, good God. This was like nostalgia cringe. Okay, because
Yeah.
let's just start with the town. If you're going to give me Uncle Jesse and Stephanie, I want them to call each other Uncle Jesse and Stephanie.
Yep. Yep.
I'm sorry. And not only that, but as a fan, to hear Uncle Jesse say rude to Stephanie Tanner, Stephanie's Tanner line, friends, is what? Let me hear you say it. How rude. It's not rude. It's how rude. I took personal offense to all of this.
I appreciate the details that you remember of these things. I took acting class with her while the show was on, and I don't remember that. So good. I also can't quote shit. So there you go. Yeah.
But fair. Like, it got the point across. We understand that you have to sit in a bag and send it in, and then they tell you whether or not you have colon cancer.
Yeah. I think the tricky thing for me on these pharma ads is like, well, they have the money because it's pharma money.
Right.
And so at least it's not like your traditional obnoxious pharma spot. And they are trying to build awareness for preventative care. And they are also trying to sell you a product for your preventative care. And also, they're making sure people know screening is important.
Audience.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like those obnoxious, I don't know, I'm sure you get these too. Like you constantly get fed these ads on Instagram or recommended posts or whatever that are like, if you know who I am, you're the age for this screening. And it's like, yeah, thanks. I know. Yes, we all need to go get our mammograms. Got it. So I get that they're kind of tap into that idea as well. And
Yeah.
look, I'm dreading the few more years when this is the reality that's going to set in.
This is our
Uh,
reality, friend.
but I also thought you just did this at the doctor's office. But I've also heard that that's a miserable process. So maybe they're onto something here with
Right.
whatever this thing is. It's interesting. I think apparently there's a way that consumers can also get audio messages from Stamos's Uncle Jesse for the second talk. Not really sure how that's working.
Oh.
Um, there's lots of other distribution methods for this. So they're putting some money behind this. So what they have, I will say, that cancer support community does not have is it sounds like they're able to find their eyeballs to get on this
Yes.
conversation. So to be fair, at least people are going to know they need to get screened. Whether they like the spot or not, they will know they are of age that it is time to get screened. And whether or
Yes.
not they use Cologuard for their screening, at least maybe they'll go to their doctor and take care of that business. And to be fair, I have heard many statistics talking about how it is growing for people under 50. And so it is important to reach that
Yeah.
audience. So tapping into nostalgia, again, not such a bad idea, but execution.
Give
Um,
just
you
give
know,
me Uncle Jesse and Stephanie for one moment. That's all I'm
yeah,
asking.
let's fully embrace the characters all
Yeah.
the way. Yeah.
Don't fourth wall me, John Stamos, okay?
Yeah.
I'm not here for that.
Totally.
Here for the poop screening.
Oh my God. Yeah. And the irony of all of it too, it's not like it's like a pregnancy test where you just go to the pharmacy and you pick it up for yourself and you take care of business and your COVID test and you're donezo. You still have to get it prescribed from your doctor.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting in the sense that they're promoting it in the way that they are because it's still up to the doctor to prescribe it this way. And I doubt people are going in being like, can I get my Cologuard test so I don't have to do it here? So I think maybe if their messaging had really just pivoted to focusing solely on the idea of getting your screening and
Yeah.
less so on how you get the screening, I think their message also could have been more effective.
Yeah, but then Alana, you wouldn't have the product promotion that they clearly needed.
Yeah, but I think you could have done that more subtly. But I know the companies don't do that because they want it in your face. So
Of course.
anyway.
What would we do without our special guest star?
Yeah, I mean, I get that side too, but bring in someone else from the show, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yes, be in character all the way. And then lastly, we have Abby, who's
Yeah,
striking out cancer.
which it turns out is actually not a one-off campaign, which is
We
really
love to
nice
see
to see. Yeah.
growth. Growth is big.
Hmm.
Moving on from just working with the Chicago Cubs to, what was it, all 30 Major League Baseball teams?
Yeah.
Which is an exciting progression. Didn't just go from 1 to 5, went from 1 to 30. We love this.
Yep, we do. We do. And yeah, this campaign is called Striking Out Cancer. So basically, over the course of the baseball season, batters strike out a lot. I had no idea. 40,000 times on average. And so, through this idea of striking out to cancer, AbbVie will donate $20 to the Stand Up to Cancer charity each time someone strikes out.
And guess what? It's not a totally random number, which often happens. The $20 represents 20% of people worldwide who will be diagnosed with cancer before age 75.
Oh, snaps.
Love that.
Love this, AbbVie.
Also, I'm weirdly almost surprised it's only 20% because based on what we were just talking about, it feels like it's actually much higher. But that's great to know that it's only 20%. I will fully. Well, that's why I thought that it would be higher. So I will take 20% before 75. That seems not so horrible comparatively. I mean, it's still terrible, obviously. But I also love how transparent they are about the dollar amount on the back end of this, right? So we can do math. 40,000 average strikeouts times 20 a pop, right? 800K.
Yep.
Great. It could go higher or lower depending, but they've put a transparent $1 million maximum on their donation. Fine.
Yeah.
They're doing it. They're talking about it. They're getting teams involved. People look up to sports teams like it's nobody's business. So I think doing partnerships like this are really great. And I fully support this concept.
Yeah.
And I think it's great.
A home run, so to speak.
Home run. Home run. And Stand Up to Cancer is obviously a great organization. So it's
Yeah.
awesome to continue to build awareness for them. And hopefully they're also, on top of this, doing activations at the actual games
Ding, ding, ding,
and
ding.
and having conversations, like giving free PSA time. Well, it's a no PSA because it's not a PSA. It is a pharma company, but it'd be great if AbbVie is advertising this campaign and promoting it both on the games and on the ground, having pop-up experiences, and then offering support through Stand Up to Cancer or other organizations and promoting, like cross-promoting and having all sorts of activations, both during the regular season and in the postseason, hopefully. But also, if that doesn't all happen this year, it seems like they're on a growth pattern. So maybe if it doesn't happen this year, it can at least happen next year. Would love to see this continue to grow.
Yeah, this campaign was really reminiscent of there is a company, a steel company back in Chicago called Magellan, and
Mhm.
they actually take their sports sponsorship dollars and
Mhm.
they sponsor all the big Chicago teams,
Mhm.
and they replace them. They replace their
Mhm.
their promotional time
Mhm.
with nonprofits
Mhm.
that they also support. So like if this is replicable, and I think that there's it gets everybody excited about the game in a different on a different level, and like
Yeah, you get excited about the strikeout because it
right,
equals
exactly,
dollars.
which
Yeah.
is really fun. And yeah, I just
And the
think
pressure on the
more,
pitchers.
right, more companies need to take a page out of this book, not just big pharma. But
Yeah.
it's nice to see that it's happening either
Yeah,
way.
we talked about another company that, remember, there was another company that did that in racing. They gave
Right.
away their spots to the nonprofits that we talked
Yeah.
about early on in one of our episodes.
The Formula One. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which is also interesting because, speaking of cancer as well, we were at the Long Beach Grand Prix last weekend and we
Fun.
were looking at the cars in between the different races. And I don't remember what the series of these cars were, but there was a car that their whole purpose is to donate money to children's hospitals. And that's been part of their ethos from the beginning. And obviously, it's expensive to even race to begin with. But literally, the whole point of this car being driven in the race is to raise money for children's hospitals. And then they bring together kids from all the children's hospitals when they pull out the livery every year, and they have the kids write on it and put handprints on it. And so the whole car is
Oh,
covered
I love
with
that.
messages to the driver and handprints of kids across the thing. I forget what state it started out in, and now it's across the country. And if you donate from California per se, like you could pick which children's hospital you want to donate to. It's not just one children's hospital. They work with all of them. So I thought that was very cool.
Oh, that's so
Anyways,
nice. I love that.
with that, we have talked a lot today. So we will wrap it up for you.
Thank you so much to our listeners. Let's shine a light and learn from those who are doing it well and reduce the missed opportunities for good.
We want to hear from you. Please let us know, what campaigns are you seeing that are doing it well? Who would you like to see us interview, and what campaigns would you like us to audit?
Or campaigns that are not doing it well either. I'm
Yes,
always
true.
a proponent for those too. Thank you so much to our listeners, our Substack readers, our YouTube channel subscribers, everyone for joining us on our mission to revolutionize the industry that we love.
Missed Opportunities for Good is powered by love of good and aligned for impact.